So it's that time of year where we sit down and we reflect on the year that we've just been through, and we decide what it is that we want out of the next year. We set our goals and we hope that we meet them, and I am no different. So today I'm here to talk about my 2021 goals. Hello fellow book lovers, I'm Kaylee and welcome to Blue Geranium Books. So like I said in my intro, today I am here to talk about my 2021 reading goals. I have quite a few, and then there's also a couple of channel goals which I'll start with because they're very small goals in general. Which is, the first goal is that I want to create quality, consistent content. This channel is less than a month old, so I don't have a ton of data to work with, but that is my main goal for this channel, to have quality, consistent content on it. The other part is to add in more book reviews going forward. I've only done one mid-month wrap-up, but what I would like to do is some more in-depth reviews of the books that I'm reading, which falls into my reading goals for 2021. So I'm going to start with the bigger general goals and then get into the more personal goals, which sounds a little weird, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. So the first big goal I have for 2021 reading is to have a better reading year in 2021 than I had in 2020. Pretty sure I've talked about it here before, but I don't know if I have. 2020 is the year I have had the worst reading slump of my entire life. There was just too much going on, too much anxiety, and I couldn't focus. I picked up lots of books that were great books, and I just couldn't make it through them. So I am going into 2021 mostly trying to focus on things I think will help me fall back into reading, because it's always been a huge part of my life. And just for kind of a comparison's sake, so that you can see what I mean by this, is that on average I read 100 books a year. I'm not super obsessed with the number, but it's just my natural reading without pushing is about 100 books a year. Sometimes a few less, sometimes a few more, but 100 books. This year I'm getting to 30 by the end of December, maybe 31 if I finish off a couple that I've started. So there's a big difference, and that I think speaks a lot to just how much stress was happening in 2020, that I just couldn't focus and I couldn't read, and it's felt wrong all year. It's just felt wrong because that's not me. I always am reading. I always have at least a book or three with me, and it didn't work this year, and I want to make that better next year. So I have a few things that I'm intending to do to help that happen. So the first one, is the first sub-goal, I guess you could call it, is that I'm going to be taking part in some reading challenges for 2021. I have about 4 of them that I'm looking at. 2 are aimed at reading the books that are already on your shelves, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I have thousands of books, and a lot of times you don't necessarily gravitate to something that's been on your shelf for years, even though you want to read it. And I want to read more of what's been here for a long time and find new favorites, or decide that I'm not going to continue reading that series, and then I can remove those and make room for new books on my shelf. This is not me going on any type of buying ban. I don't know that that would ever actually work for me, but it is me wanting to be more intentional about picking books that I already own before necessarily grabbing a new book that has just caught my eye. The second thing is similar, which is that I'm going to be participating in some buddy reads in 2021, and I think that community around reading particular books can be very helpful when maybe you're struggling, you have other people to talk to, and kind of get yourself hyped up about reading. The next is that I am starting a series that I've really wanted to read for a long time, but it's the Stormlight Archive series, and as anybody who is familiar with those books or Sanderson knows that those books are very large. They're well over 1,000 pages, and it can seem a little daunting when you've been through a reading slump to say, oh, I'm going to read 1,000 pages in a month, you know, just in And so what I'm planning on doing is making those my quarterly reads. So currently there are 4 books out in that series, and I am planning to read 1 book each quarter of the year. So by the end of the year I will have read the entire Stormlight archive that is currently available, but I will have broken it down into manageable chunks that shouldn't overwhelm me. I also want to read more of the ebooks I have on my Kindle and more of the audiobooks that I already own. So I have lots of books that I've picked up here and there on sales or because I had credits that I wanted to use, and then they sit there and I want to read those and get to read those stories and find out whether or not they're authors I'm interested in and would continue reading in the future. So my main goal for 2021 is that I want to be a more intentional reader. This falls back into wanting to write more reviews, more in-depth reviews. I want to read and absorb what I'm reading in a way that I can write about it and for it to make sense. And in that vein, my major goal for 2021 is to start keeping a reading journal. I kind of always tracked my reading on Goodreads, and I want to be more thorough in my reading tracking. This is a printout I found over on the Martin and Mrs. Darcy's website. It's from 2019, but it is undated. You can print it off and use it whenever. And I am still setting this reading journal up. The main portion comes from the Modern Mrs. Darcy, but I've also found some other things I'm adding in, and I got some dividers in so that I can organize it the way I want it to be. I'm also intending to start annotating books while I'm reading them via glossing, which is where you use sticky notes and tabs instead of writing in the books. So I think I've mentioned this before on my channel, but the idea of writing in my books just really makes me anxious, and I just can't. But I was reading a really interesting blog post recently, and I will leave a link down to it below, where it talked about different forms of annotation, and one of them was glossing. And I want to do that in the future when I'm reading books, especially if I know that I intend to review them, which is to take notes and to be more thorough and more intentional in my reading. So there are my reading and channel goals for 2021. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying my content. What are your goals for 2021? Leave a link below if you've written a post or created a video, or you can just leave a comment down below and tell me what your channel goals or your reading goals or whatever goals you have for yourself in 2021 are. I'd love to hear about it and cheer you on as you try to reach them. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time.